You know that feeling when you're staring at a rack of gear, wondering if the next piece you buy is going to actually move the needle or just sit there collecting dust? I've been there a lot, especially when it comes to microphone preamps that promise a dozen channels and remote control but might end up being more hassle than help. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and in the next few minutes I'm going to walk through why the RME 12Mic could be the answer for some setups and a needless expense for others. First off, let's set the stage for what a 12-channel mic preamp really means in a day-to-day studio or broadcast environment. When you're running a drum kit with separate mics on each tom, a vocal chain, a room mic, and maybe a couple of instruments, you quickly hit the limits of a 4-input board. The RME 12Mic expands that headroom to 12 channels, which on paper sounds like a no-brainer for anyone who's ever wished for just one more input. But the real question is how those channels are actually delivered and controlled, because that's where the rubber meets the road. The most striking feature of this unit is its AVB networking capability. In plain language, that means you can tweak gain, phantom power, and routing from any computer on the same Ethernet network, without having to reach over the rack. In my own experience setting up a small post-production suite, I was able to place the preamp in a climate-controlled rack room and run all the adjustments from a laptop in the control room. No more juggling a screwdriver and a screwdriver-sized remote. The latency is practically non-existent, and the software interface is clean enough that you can see all 12 channels at a glance, label them, and even recall saved scenes for different projects. Now, the input configuration is a bit of a mixed bag. The 12Mic offers 4 XLR/TRS/TS combo inputs, which can be useful if you need to plug in line-level sources or use quarter-inch microphones, but the remaining 8 channels are accessed via the ADAT interface. That means you'll need an ADAT-compatible device like an audio interface or a digital mixer to actually use the full 12 inputs. If you already have a Pro Tools or Logic setup with ADAT, that integration is seamless. If not, you might find yourself buying an extra ADAT expander just to unlock the extra 8 channels, which can add unexpected cost. On the output side, the preamp gives you 3 ADAT outputs, a dedicated headphone out, and a main analog output. The headphone monitoring is surprisingly solid. The headphone amp provides enough headroom to drive high-impedance studio headphones without distortion, making it a handy spot for engineers who need to cue a vocalist or a soloist while the rest of the session runs. The 3 ADAT outputs let you split the 12 channels into separate digital streams, which is a godsend if you're sending a full drum kit to a mixing console while feeding just the vocal and bass to a separate recorder. Let's talk practicality with a concrete scenario. Imagine you're recording a live acoustic session in a church. You have a pair of stereo mics for the room, a cardioid for the singer, a few spot mics on the piano, and a couple of ambient mics on the balcony. With the RME 12Mic, you can hook the 4 combo inputs to the most critical sources, say, the singer and the piano, and route the rest through an ADAT-capable interface that sits on a laptop. Because everything is network controllable, the engineer can adjust the gain on the fly from a tablet without stepping onto the stage. The result is a smoother workflow, fewer cable runs, and the ability to capture every nuance without scrambling for a spare preamp. Contrast that with a solo home studio producer who mostly records vocals and a guitar. For that user, a single 4-channel preamp or even a high-quality 2-channel unit would be more than sufficient. The extra 12 channels become redundant, and the network control, while slick, adds an unnecessary layer of complexity. In that case, the RME 12Mic is likely overkill, both in price and in the amount of gear you'd need to fully utilize it. Speaking of price, the value proposition of the 12Mic doesn't just come from the headline specs, it's about the workflow efficiencies it unlocks. If you're running a commercial recording studio that handles multiple artists per day, the ability to remotely set gains and switch phantom power without breaking the session flow can translate into real-time saved minutes that add up to hours over a week. The ADAT expandability also means you can future-proof your setup. You start with 4 physical inputs, but as your client roster grows and you need more mics for larger ensembles, you simply plug in an ADAT interface and you have the rest of the channels ready to go. On the flip side, there are some practical trade-offs to keep in mind. The reliance on ADAT means you're tethered to a digital ecosystem. Any hiccup in the ADAT chain, like a bad cable or a mismatched clock, can throw off the entire